think I already changed the nameplate. Yeah, I brought yours over because Connie's was out there.
Subcommittee meeting for the facility subcommittees of both the school committee and the city council. Thank you everybody for joining us this evening. We have two items on the agenda. The first is to discuss the superintendent's plan to address the overcrowding in the middle schools for next school year. And the second is a discussion of the facility maintenance in the schools and the school grounds. So with that, Mr. Frisch, I'll turn it over to you. And oh, I'm sorry, we're going to have to take a roll call first. So, Clerk, would you mind calling the roll?
Mr. Gendron?
Here.
Mr. Gignac?
Here.
Mr. Hoey?
Here.
Counselor Leahy?
Here.
Counselor Mercia?
Here.
Counselor Samaras?
Here.
6 present.
Great. Okay, now we can get along with the agenda. Mr. Frisch, if you wouldn't mind giving us your address to that first agenda item, and that is the addressing the plans to address the overcrowding in the middle school starting next school year.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have been meeting internally with the superintendent and his leadership team. We have agreed on a plan to address the middle school overcrowding for next year, 2017-18. Before we talk about the plan, I'd like to provide some background information. The enrollment last year went up 137 students at the middle school, 176 students in total for grades K through 12. Remember, we added 4 fifth-grade classrooms last year, 2 at the Wing and 2 at the Rogers STEM Academy. The class size modeling that John Dakota has calculated for 2017-18 shows an average class sizes ranging from 26.3 to 30.5 students per classroom. Remember, we had class size predictions of 32 last year. We believe by adding classrooms...
Mr. Frisch, if I can just stop you for
Sure.
1 second. So last year, as I recall, our projection was 28 to 30, I think, and that in the Rogers and the Wang solution was a fail-safe solution. It was because we couldn't afford the modulars, we had pushed it up to 28 with this solution. So are you saying that currently our
predictions are...
What is our current state of class size in the middle schools? Do you know?
I don't have that right
Okay.
for you today, but
Okay.
we can get that to you.
But the projection for next year, you're saying
It's 26
0.3 to
0.3 to
30.5.
30.5.
And that is in the current state of classrooms, or,
Correct, without adding any additional classrooms.
all right,
So it's a sort of a status quo.
okay.
We believe by adding classrooms at the Rogers, we can reduce this class size that I just talked about district-wide by promoting the STEM Academy at the 5th grade level like we did last year. We are planning at least 4 sections of 5th grade and at least 2 sections of the 6th grade at the STEM Academy. This will be an increase of at least 4 new classrooms at the Rogers just to maintain the status quo as students matriculate from one year to the next. We are proposing an additional 2 new classrooms at the Rogers to reduce class sizes district-wide. The new classrooms can be either 5th grade or 6th grade, or one of each, depending on where we need to reduce class sizes district-wide. So if we add all those new classrooms up, we're looking at 6 new classrooms at the Rogers. Where would we get the 6 more classrooms? One, by converting the TV studio back into a classroom. 2 classrooms by converting the home economics classroom, and we can pick up 3 classes by converting 6 small classrooms back to their original size. There was a wall put in there, a temporary wall, dividing up the large classroom into 2 small classrooms. We'll take that wall down and bring it back to its original classroom size. So,
I'm sorry, can I interrupt one more time?
Sure.
So how does taking the wall down add a classroom?
well, there are 2 small classrooms. The wall separates the 2 classes, 2 small classrooms. By taking it down, you pick up 1 classroom. And we have a total of 6 small classrooms. So we take down the walls in between the 2 classrooms, and we pick up 1 large classroom. The kids that are currently in the small classrooms, we can handle them within the building in other classes. So we're picking up 3 large classrooms that can fit 30 students in a class. So that's 3 classes, 2 classrooms by converting the home ec room into 2 classrooms, and then the TV studio brings us to 6. And that's essentially for the classrooms to just handle the status quo, and then the 2 classrooms pick up an additional 50 students that would reduce class sizes district-wide. We would have to promote, like we did this year, the STEM Academy, and encourage students moving from the 4th grade to the 5th grade to move to the STEM Academy. We were very successful this year in that promotion.
Is that it?
That is pretty much it. If that is not enough, we believe that throughout the district, we can pick up a classroom here or there from the existing elementary and middle schools. We believe we can find a classroom to reduce the class sizes in that building if we need to. So that would be our backup plan. And the enrollment to the middle school, or to the Rogers STEM Academy, would grow from 606 students to 756 students. So we're going to need some additional resources of additional staff and additional supplies to make this work. That would be a sizable increase to the STEM Academy.
So with the additional classrooms that you're adding there, and the 6 classrooms in the Rogers School, and I'm not sure about the TV studio, what we're going to do. We use that pretty frequently. or the home ec class, what we're going to do for that. But let's say we have those 6 additional classrooms, what does that bring our average class size to? You had mentioned that John Dakota sees it at 26.3 to 30.5 in the
Right.
current state. And do you have an estimate for what adding those 6 classrooms would do?
We can provide that to you, but just responding to you now, I would believe that can bring it down to 28, where we believe we had it for this year.
Well, so you said 26.5 to 30.
Right, so it'd be 26 to 28.
That's about 28 anyway, right?
Right.
You think the average would be lower than 28, or?
Yes, with the reducing it by 50 students,
Okay.
or bringing in 50 more seats, we can bring the average down.
Okay. We'll hit these guys first, John, and then Mr. Gignac.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just pulled up a report that we received back in September regarding current class sizes in the middle school, which says there's an average of 28 students per class. And this plan really just seems like another bandage on a bigger issue district-wide. And I don't like taking kids from all over the city and putting them into one roof as a temporary solution. But you had said you're going to take 6 small classrooms and bring them into the original size so that they can accommodate 30 students each?
That's the maximum class size,
Okay.
right. So a large classroom can fit 30 desks.
What's, and we've been asking this for months now, what's the plan for the kids that leave the Rogers? Where are they going?
To leave the Rogers?
Yeah.
Well, right now we have 2 fifth grade sections. So we're going to move those kids to, within the school, to a 6th grade section, 2 6th grade sections at least, at a minimum, potentially up to 4 sections. Depending upon where we need to reduce class size district-wide. It's either we're going to make the 2 additional classrooms 5th grade or 6th grade, or 1 of each.
So if we do not go with this plan, my question is, where would those kids go?
Well, at a minimum, we need to provide 4 classrooms at the STEM Academy. So that just to handle the status quo, which is the 2 sections, 5th grade going to 6th grade, and the 4 4th grade sections going to 5th grade.
Yeah.
So we need, just to handle those students, 4 classrooms at the Rogers. So our plan would be not only those 4 classrooms, but an additional 2 at the Rogers to make it 6.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to say, earlier in the year there, I tried to bring an idea up about separating 5th and 6th from 7th and 8th. But I think I was thinking back 20 years ago when we had wheelbarrows full of money. I know things are tighter right now, but I kind of believe we could just maybe, if we can't separate the 5th and 6th from the 7th and 8th, because I think 8th graders and 5th graders, it just doesn't cut it with me. It's just my opinion, and I'm thinking maybe we can keep all these pre-K to K-4 schools, maybe add a 5th grade to them, each one of them. And then we're only dealing with 6th, 7th, and 8th, you know? But that's maturity level. I don't know if that's going to float. But I just think it might be a good idea at this time, that those kids would still be in the school that they came from and just form a 5th grade.
Well, that's something to definitely consider. With the high school project, obviously, the freshman academy will open up and give us more opportunities when the new high school is built. So we are, in effect, trying to buy some time until we have more capacity. We're looking at other outside opportunities to add classroom space. So that could change things as well. So at this point, we don't have any additional building capacity to talk about some opportunities or new options. But we're definitely looking at new options as we speak. We're working with the city, looking at different classrooms not within our schools at the present time. Those, if they're successful, will then could add new options for us. And of course, once the new high school is built, the freshman academy, it would be available to K through 8 for additional options. So at the present time, we have a space crunch, and we're looking at opportunities to add classroom space without adding modulars. The modulars are very expensive and are pretty much not cost-effective. So we're looking at cost-effective solutions. We know money is a scarce commodity, and we want to use the dollars as prudent as possible.
Now, when you say the high school, when it's ready, we'll get the old low trade back for K to 8. How long, how many years you talking there? About 3 years, right? 4? 5 years.
5
It's a long
years,
time.
the city manager
It's a long
said.
time, so it
Yes.
sounds to me we have to do something pretty quick here.
Yeah, and we're looking at additional classroom space.
Right.
But we don't have any definites at the moment, so we can't count on anything.
Mr. Leahy, did you have a comment?
Thank you. Can you explain, either Mr. Gendron or Mr. Frisch, just so we all understand, what's the STEM Academy and how are you gonna put, so 6 classrooms we're talking, hopefully? Mm-hmm. All right, but that's 120 kids, right? So if we do all 137, we got 34 in a classroom over there. So that's a lot of kids. But can you, so if you do your STEM Academy over there, you have enough teachers for each subject, and then what about busing? Like, all those costs add up too, right?
That's correct. Yeah, we're increasing the capacity at our proposal, increase capacity at the Rogers, which would increase about 150 students. We calculated 25 per classroom. 6 classrooms that would yield 150
All right,
students.
I had the 4 classrooms, yeah, okay.
It would take additional resources, as you mentioned. We would have to hire additional teachers. We would need additional support services, additional assistant principal, because that would become the largest school outside of the high school, the STEM Academy. The STEM Academy is focused on science and technology,
Yeah.
engineering, and the school is focused around those core subjects. That's why it's called the Rogers STEM Academy. There's some really interesting things happening at that school, educationally, and so it's been, when we promoted it last year, for the first time we had 2 new sections that were opening up for the 5th grade. We received more than 55 applications. We took 55
Okay.
for the 2 classrooms.
All right. Is there any more administration offices at the Rogers right now? Is it all classroom or is it administrative at all?
It's pretty much all classrooms.
And we're still short classrooms?
Well, we wanted to add 6 for new classrooms.
Right.
And we believe that we can find those within the existing footprint.
Okay, I heard that. Yep, all right, and one other question I just had too was, so when we build the new high school, I wasn't aware that we were talking about closing the freshman academy, so, because that's a pretty big high school it's probably about what, 1,000 freshman academy and 2,500 at the high school. So to build even a high school for 2,500 students is sizable amount. To build it for 3,500, that's something we gotta be careful about, because that's gonna cost us a lot more money than we wanted. So is that up for discussion, or was that a done deal, or is that just talk about?
I
Closing the
think we're getting
freshman?
ahead of ourselves by
Okay.
suggesting that the freshman academy is gonna come back online as a classroom for the middle schools. That's been an idea that was floated.
Okay.
I've also heard the idea that maybe we'd recapture that building for administration, so we wouldn't have to pay for rent downtown. But as you say, Mr. Leahy, we need to be able to accommodate the freshmen in the main high school if we do that. So there's a lot of questions
All
still
right, so,
outstanding
okay.
there. So, yeah, I think
All
we're
right, I won't get ahead of it.
thinking down the road.
All right, I'm just concerned about the class size, so I'll leave it at that.
Indeed. Mr. Samaras, did you have a comment?
Thank you. I do understand the concept of the STEM Academy. What I wasn't sure of, it's housed in one building at the present time. Just for the record, though, it's kind of difficult to follow along without, I wish we had some of the material that you presented, with us. I mean, it's difficult, not without having that type of material. With that said, have you considered an extended day? I mean, the STEM Academy is where it's located in one school. If you were to do an extended day, it's something you'd have to work out with the union and work out with the parents. But the thing is, there are parents who like to have their children start earlier. There are those who want them to start later, same way with teachers. And when we were reconstructing the high school, we couldn't move the high school students anywhere. We could not, it was just, we ran out of money, literally. So the thing is, every so many months, we had a staggered day and we moved students around. It is difficult, but it's doable at the middle school level. Has that been considered?
That hasn't been considered, but that's something that we can certainly discuss.
Your salary, what you're talking about are salaries and things like that, and perhaps given, a percentage increase to the administrators, but it can be done, especially where you're looking at a temporary situation. I'd rather see the money going towards teachers and equipment than, buildings, a temporary building. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Samaras. So I want to echo, did you have any kind of a report for us tonight, Mr. Fisher, like a written report that we could look at, or?
I had prepared a report, a one-page report regarding facility space issues, and that we had sent to city manager. But it's not as comprehensive as my remarks today. I certainly can provide that to you.
Yeah, I would like to get that. I mean, honestly, I'm a little disappointed tonight. This motion was on 2 months ago. I expected to have a written report with a lot of these facts and figures. And I also have to concur with my colleague, Mr. Gignac. This seems like another Band-Aid. I mean, last year, we were looking at moving our average class size, which was around 25, 26. We wanted to get additional classroom space to handle the influx of middle school students. And when we were too late in the modular, in bidding on modular, so the price was enormous. So we decided to come up with a Band-Aid essentially for the year by adding classrooms to the STEM Academy. And that pushed our class size up to 28, which is, in my opinion, unacceptable. But because of the situation, because of the new superintendent, new things going on, we all kind of accepted it and said we're going to get through this year with a higher class size with this Band-Aid. But at that time, the entire committee, was unanimous in saying we can't do this again next year. We have to have a plan for next year about how we're going to handle this so we can keep our class size reasonable. And now what you're putting out, in my opinion, is a Band-Aid on a Band-Aid. And it's basically trying to, empty out closets at the STEM Academy so we can make classrooms. And I'm being facetious there, obviously. But
No,
still,
I understand what you're
that's essentially
saying.
the situation. We're digging around, we're moving walls, we're trying to create classrooms. And you're telling me the class size is still going to be 28 if we're lucky. So that's unacceptable to me.
Okay.
And I think we need to have a plan for how we're going to bring our class size back down to a level of 25, 26, which I think is on the border of what should be
Okay.
acceptable for our district. In my opinion, class size is one of the most important things we can do in education. Keep maintaining reasonable class size. If we saddle teachers with 30 kids in a class, the kids aren't going to get the same education that they get with 25 or 20, frankly. So we need to come up with a plan. And if the plan includes modulars, I mean, nobody wants to spend money on modulars, but if we're going to have to go get modulars to keep our class size down, then we better move.
Okay.
Because the time is now to get a price that would even be at all appetizing to the district or to the city. So we need to come up with a plan. And I know that there's other options out there in the city, maybe they're there, and if we can use them, but in my opinion, the most important thing is keeping our class size reasonable across the district, and especially in the middle schools where we're having such a problem. So, anybody else want to comment? Mr. Gignac?
Just one more comment. Thank you, Mr. Chair. When you develop this report for the subcommittee and for everybody here, can you come up with a plan for if we expand sixth grade at the Rogers School, where they're going to go for seventh grade?
Sure.
In eighth grade, because if we're just keeping them in one building and then 2 years from now throwing them across the city to all the middle schools, then we're really not solving anything. We're just delaying, even larger class sizes than what we have in front of us. And I think that's something that we have asked for in the past. As far as the modular classrooms, I think over a month ago I had suggested that the school department go develop an RFP and go back out to bid. And I understand how expensive they are, but I suggested that so we can see the real figures this year. So we could do it early in the year and get real figures and make a determination as a committee on whether or not that's the direction we wanted to go. And I think it was last week I've read in the city council's packet that the superintendent and yourself had said remote modulars is not the direction that the school department wants to go. And I think that's more of the determination of this committee, because we have priorities, and our priorities
Sure.
are to lower class sizes. And if modulars are the solution to that, which now we're at the point in the year where it's probably too late. We're going to get the same type of response we got last time, which is, we're not able to afford at this time. But it just seems like we're developing these I can't even call it a plan because we don't even have it in front of us. So if you could sit down with the superintendent and really develop a comprehensive plan with multiple scenarios, because I can tell you just from sitting here, this subcommittee doesn't seem too thrilled with scenario A that you laid out tonight. So
No,
if you could,
I got that impression, but I think it was very helpful to hear tonight Mr. Gendron speak of, a target number for us to shoot for, and that he said was 26 students per average class size. So
yeah.
that's obviously some with the average class, just to be, clear, you're talking about an average class size or a maximum class size?
I'm talking about an average class size.
Okay.
And I only use the number 26 because that's where we were before last year. Before we had the middle school influx, we were at around 25, 26. We pushed it up to 28
Sure.
because we didn't have the space, and the plan was to address that this year.
Well, this helps greatly to have a target, average class size of 26. We'll go back to the leadership team and solve that issue.
If you can do 20, I'd prefer that. Just put that out there.
Yeah.
The lower,
Well,
the
it's
better.
your call. I mean,
But clearly, 28, I don't think, and I can't speak for the full committee, but I think 28 is unacceptable.
we will definitely come back to the committee with a plan for 26,
Okay.
average class size. So that's really helpful. In terms of Mr. Gignac's solution for 6th to 7th grade, where does the STEM Academy, we're looking at several options now of leasing space. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but that we would have a solution for that, moving the 6th grade to 7th grade. Once, and we're dealing with that right now, but I'm not able to clearly be definitive about that because it's still a work in process.
Okay. So we want to, I'm sorry, Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Chairman. Mr. Frisch, I'm concerned about class size as well.
Sure.
But I'm concerned about the cost. And I'm concerned that we did not have a plan, a presentation with a plan in it before us this evening.
Sure.
And I know that you're going to work with the superintendent to devise one. And today's Wednesday. Do you think you'd have it ready anytime by Friday? So that we might have it in our packets for our colleagues to see it as well?
Friday, not this Friday, but the following Friday, we can shoot for. We can get that, something in your packet, as well as the school committee.
Because I always am excited to see something in front of me. I
Sure.
mean, what you said was interesting, but to have nothing to go on kind of leaves us up in the air, so
My apologies for that.
that's all right. But anyway, I'm wondering also in that report, and it's interesting to me as our chair, Councilor Leahy said, the added cost, you want more classroom size, you want to expand it, put more classroom space, you need more desks, you need more books.
Exactly.
You need busing, you need teachers, you need more teachers. Could there be a cost analysis, and where is this money coming from? These are the things that I'm looking for.
Sure, I'd be
Thank you.
happy to prepare that for you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Mercia. Mr. Hoey?
Real quick, I'm not that happy that we had the meeting here tonight either, because our superintendent's at a conference down on Cape, and on your next discussion about facilities, I wish he was here. So to me, it's kind of good that it's going this way, because I'd rather have, this meeting's been, we've tried to pull this meeting together a few times, been cancellations, so mistakes were made, but again, I'm happy at the mistakes I made, because I don't want to be here without my superintendent here. I think he would have presented something a little different. That, because I'm a little different than some of my colleagues. I'm not a brick and mortar man. I'm more worried about the staffing inside the schools. And right now, I believe we are at a real bad position in our schools. Our high schools are understaffed, and a lot of our schools are understaffed. And we've gained over 300 students this year. I think we're coming up on 16,000. We're pretty close. It's not 120, the number. It's like 300 every year they're adding, and we're not adding much more to that to help it. So, again, I'm sorry it didn't go your way tonight, and we didn't have the report for you, but I don't have my superintendent here. I'm not happy either, so sorry that happened to you guys, okay? Thank you.
Okay. I'll just say the superintendent had 2 months to respond to the motion, and his representative is here tonight. I hear what you're saying. I had you picked for a brick and mortar guy, though, Bob.
Yeah.
And you seem like that kind of guy to me.
I believe this issue, Steve. 20 years ago when I left here, we had the same issues. We had the same thing. 20 years. When we had a lot of money back then, we built schools. Judge Savis, I don't know how many schools they built. But we are really, it happened to the prison systems. I don't like to compare both of them, but it's called trying to make cuts. You know, how did they do it in our system? They got rid of all mental health hospitals. They got rid of them. And our system's so inclusive. I just watched one school near my house, and I see more buses coming down my street now than ever with a lot of really disadvantaged kids. A lot of handicapped kids are coming into our schools, and we need a ton of staff. So I'm glad we're all here tonight, because I know you three all know about schools, and I know the manager knows more than all of us about schools. So I know good things are going to happen. We don't even have the feasibility study in high school. We're talking about maybe getting a low trade again. That would be beautiful. If it was a vocational school, I'd be happy. So, again, thank you for your time being here with us. We have a meeting in a few minutes, so it's not really hurting us as much as it did to you. So I'm sorry you didn't get the full report that you needed.
So, Mr. Leahy.
Just quickly, you know, you're right, Mr. Hoey, these problems go around and around and around. So I just wanted to add quickly that, you know, the target, as Mr. Jensen said, should always be the lowest amount of kids in a classroom. So
Right.
that shouldn't be a surprise to any school system administration, school committee, or whatever at the time, we're always looking to get the lowest amount, so, and we shouldn't be happy with, 28, 30 kids in a classroom. So that's what we're trying for, and we'll keep trying and trying and trying again. But, so I just wanted to make sure that that was drilled home. So, I mean, you're absolutely right. If we could have 20 kids in a classroom, that'd be great, but, so we'll move on to the next item.
Mr. Samaras?
Thank you. As I said, you stated in your next report, you'd even consider the extended day. I mean, that hasn't been talked about much, but the thing is, for a temporary situation, I think that's something you really have to, really have to look into. But in assessing your needs, do you also assess the programs that really aren't working? In other words, there comes a time when every system has to look at what they have, what's working well and what isn't working.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some things that I would say that aren't working as well, and they could be replaced. And sometimes you find room that way. I think sometimes we look at the problem, we need to find space right now. Well, I think you have to look internally. I think, if you were to approach the city council for more funds, I mean, one of the questions I would ask is, what have you done to look at yourself internally to assure us that you've made the best, decisions? Because we're talking about our children, we're talking about the needs of the, and I'm speaking to the choir. I don't mean to preach. I mean, you understand it very well.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. And so in order to elicit as much help from everyone as you possibly can, I think there comes a time when you have to say, we need these programs. But we've also assessed that we've had programs that have been with us 20, 30 years. These programs have not worked as well or aren't working truly, and we're going to maybe end these programs, take the staff, retrain them if you have to, but put them into areas that are needed. I mean, I've seen this. I mean, I've been part of the system, and far be it for me to say, I was there, I know what to do. No, I mean, my day is gone. I'm out of the situation. So where I am is to look at what support can I give to the school system? What support can the Lowell City Council give to the school system? What support can the city manager and his administration give to the system? But basically, we have to know why, what we're giving, and what's been done. So I'm just saying that, to do something like that, and that's not a study you could make within a week or two, but
Right.
I think in preparation for next year, it'd be a good direction for you to go in.
I think that's very wise counsel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Samaras. So I'd entertain a motion from the school committee, subcommittee, to ask Mr. Frisch to develop a comprehensive plan for dealing with the overcrowding in middle schools, as well as an analysis of class size that would go along with it. By Mr. Gignac, second by Mr. Holy, all in favor? Okay. With that, for the second agenda item, I'll hand it over to my chairperson counterpart, Councilor Leahy, we have 20 minutes, Councilor Leahy, before our meeting starts, so it's all you.
Sure, thank you. So the purpose of this motion is, again, to come together, both city side and school side, and try to develop a better plan to maintain our schools. So that's basically, the short end of it here. What we want to do is, I know that last year we had it seems like right now we have a lot of new players. So last year we had a plan, we were going school by school, and we were trying to eliminate a lot of problems in the schools. So what I would like to see is,
Thank you.
is just, a way that we can try to stay ahead of the game. So I guess we just got handed a sheets of work orders and things that we've been doing, and that's fine. But not to be rude or disrespectful, but it doesn't matter if we did 100,000 repairs here. When I walk into a school and I see tiles missing and water dripping down the walls and panels outside broken, windows broken, it really doesn't matter how many things we've done. Sometimes, they say, well, we did a lot of work on the heating systems, but then yet we got a list here of almost every school that has heating issues. So, and that's the long and short of it. I toured the high school this year, and I was disappointed. Some of the hallways should have been painted. Some of the new floors are already buckling. There's tiles missing. There's drips from leaks dripping down the wall that weren't even washed off yet. And I understand what Mr. Hoey said, and I totally agree with you. The money's got to go into the classroom with the teachers and the kids and the computers and the technology. But when we come into our buildings and they're in disrepair, it's not good for anybody. It's not good for the kids. It's not good for the morale of the staff. We have events in the front of the high school, and there's broken exterior tiles. We're trying to do a presentation for 9/11 with the nice flagpoles and the brick, and then we have broken tiles that have been there for years. Holes in the walls, doorknobs missing, tiles missing in the ceiling, and stuff falls down and gets in people's eyes. I was in somebody's office, and a tile was missing, and her eyes are all itchy. It takes 2 seconds, and we really have to put our heads together and say, who's gonna replace the tiles? If this has to be negotiated, then it's gotta be negotiated, but get on board and let people in the buildings replace a tile that fell down. And this is basically what I'm looking for. And, we've been doing this for years. These guys hear it all the time. We hear it. And it doesn't always have to be an issue of money. It just has to be an issue of getting it done. If you're in a hall and we got a hole in the wall, patch it and paint it with the color that's close to it, because believe me, there's been plenty of walls painted with just whatever paint's laying around. We need to follow through. If we have a hole in the wall, get it patched, get it painted, and it's done. It shouldn't take a year to patch a hole in the wall, to change tiles. I understand if you can't find a leak, sometimes leaks are hard to find. You think you got it, next time it rains, it leaks again. But, and we shouldn't be going into the buildings November 1st and turning the heat on saying, well, the heat doesn't work. I'm sure that, I'm just talking randomly here, but I'm sure we must test our heaters in September when it's warm out to make sure they're running, because you wouldn't turn the heat on the first cold day and find out the heat doesn't work. So do we have these in play? Are we gonna put them in play? And that's what I'm looking for. Kids wanna come to school, they wanna look around and respect the building, because we as adults respect the building and we're keeping it up. We can't let that high school fall down around us because we're expecting a new one to be built. So that's what I wanted to say on that.
Well, just a quick response to that. You're talking to the choir here. Everything you said, I'm in total agreement. We're responsible for the cleaning the buildings. I would love to have a joint group of administrators from the city as well as from the school department to work on the solution of this. I totally agree with everything you said, and I believe that deferred maintenance is bad for schools. Kids learn better when they're in comfortable surroundings, when the heat works, when the air conditioning works, when it looks pretty, it looks attractive to learn. That affects student learning. I am in total agreement, and I think we need to define the roles. What does the school department is responsible for? What is the city responsible for? We have a shared system, so we need to articulate and define exactly who is responsible for what. And we have been communicating to the City Department of Public Works. We have been doing everything that we understand we're supposed to do. So we'd love to entertain a meeting or a series of meetings to address how can we get this turned around, because the The current status is unacceptable. I'm in total agreement, and I would love to see this turn around.
Well, thank you. I mean, we are going to continue this. Councilor Samaras?
Thank you. No, I concur with, the statements that Councilor Leahy stated as to the frustrations, but I think it's a frustration that all of us have had. There's never enough money to do all
Right.
the things that we have to do. But from a time when I was part of these frustrations, I'd just like to recommend or give a thought to, there's two issues here, the way I see it. There's one paper that talks about roofs that leak badly, boilers that don't work, and another about the large number of work orders, which would include the missing tile and things like that. Do you have a process where, we'll say, the principal and the head custodian meet to, we'll say, establish a priority, and then meet with central office to establish the priority for a building? I think there should be two priorities. A priority for major work that has to be done, and that way you can negotiate, I think, in a lot easier fashion with the city when you're talking, okay, we've got 3 schools, the boilers have to, we just can't go any other direction without the boilers being fixed. And then another list in which you work together and say, okay, we have minimum amount of money, or we have X amount of money to deal with, but we can either select certain schools, or certain type of jobs based on a conversation. I think what's happened in the past, a lot of these work orders fall into a hole somewhere. There's an attempt to deal with them, and then they're sort of pushed aside until another work order comes in. And if you try to find fault, it's almost impossible to find fault. And that shouldn't be the purpose at this point. I think you said it well. There comes a time in which you have to say, okay, what's the process that we have? What's a workable process? Knowing that there's not an unlimited amount of money, but knowing that we have to ensure that our children, as you said, you want them in a comfortable and safe situation. So that's all I'd like to add. But I'd like to see something like that. If that were to come before the council, I could, I could say, okay, Mr. Manager, this is something we have to look at because it's been outlined in a very professional manner. Thank you.
Yeah, I am in total agreement with your comments. Thank you.
Councilor Mercer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are 19 schools on this piece of paper, and every single one of them has a boiler problem, a roof leaking, the air handler on the roof is leaking. Everything stems from either heating or boiler problems in all of these schools here.
Correct.
I don't know how it all got to this point where they're all leaking simultaneously, and we're into the bad weather coming up. I mean, this is quite a problem, and do we have a plan in place to address some sort of issue here with this?
I'm in total agreement with you, Ms. Mercier. It is unacceptable, the current status of the heat, the boilers, the roof leaks. It's unacceptable. We need a urgent plan to address this. We need to find the money for that to make it happen, because it's unacceptable to not have heat in the building as kids learn. It's not acceptable to have roof leaks and create indoor air quality issues. In all of our buildings, it's unacceptable. Every student needs to have an acceptable educational environment to learn and to grow. It needs to happen, and it needs to happen tomorrow.
See, I did make a motion some time ago because there's a particular school in the city. In the summer, it's pretty hot. Kids go to school in the summer. The air conditioning isn't working. And in the winter, the heat is working on one portion of the side of the school, but the other side is left cold. And it's not fair to let your children go to school and they have to keep their jackets on because that side of the school isn't feeling the heat. That, to me, is more important than a tile coming off the wall. Heating and
No, I agree.
coolness, very important here. So these are critical issues, and it is my concern, so
I share your concerns.
something has to be done. I mean, I wouldn't want to be that child in the classroom shivering because it's cold on that side of the building, so
I'm
we
in
need to
total.
address it. We need to address it. Thank you.
Yeah, and not, and there should be no reason not to fix it. There should be, it should happen. And whatever it takes, it needs to happen.
Before Mr. Hoey and Mr. Jen and Mr. Gigna, I know that on our side, as I said again, Mr. Manager, we have all new players in place now. So, you know, and I'm sure Mr. Troop's here, he can find us some extra money. That's what his job is over there. But seriously, you know, it's time to reorganize with all the new players and manage our time better. So, Mr. Hoey, Mr. Gignac, Mr.
Thank you. The mayor's here. We can be a little bit late. We won't get in trouble. I just want to bring up one thing. The superintendent ain't here, and I'm not here to defend him. He's at a conference right now. But if you looked at what he had to do for the year that he's been here, he's had to fix a lot of things, and this school committee and this mayor had to do a lot of things. But tonight, we're sitting here over maintenance that it's not the manager's problem. I'm not pointing a finger at him or anybody in the city. All I can tell you is the three things that bother me the most in our schools right now: maintenance, a lack of nurses, and security. And all three of those issues fall on the city side of government. That's who's paying that bill. That's who's responsible for those three things. We want to work with you together, finally. The first time in my lifetime, and I'm only 62. This issue is big. It's huge. And the manager knows it. It's very quiet tonight. I wish the superintendent was here because we would be talking about that. I have one question to my CFO. How much money does the city charge the schools to do all that work?
You know, I can give that report to you. I don't have it with me.
You don't have a ballpark figure in your head? Ballpark.
In terms of,
How much are we charged by the city to fix all those things? That's a question I would have, and I'm not pointing the finger. I'm saying is we're charged, our budget is charged, I want to guess somewhere between 30 and 50 million. Am I correct?
you would be correct if you were saying the total.
The total?
The total is chargebacks. I have to look at the actual net school spending, but the city's responsible for between 30 and 50 million
Thank you.
in total.
And
Not
I
just,
think,
which, maintenance is one of those categories, but there's a whole long list of categories.
that's why I thought the superintendent should be here. Because I believe once him and our manager get together, good things are going to come for the schools. That's it. Thank you very much.
I think it's a partnership that we need to, the problem was pretty laid out very nicely. It is a problem. We need to work together to solve the problem yesterday.
Thank you, Mr. Jenner.
Thank you, Mr. Leahy. So, couple things. First, Councilor Mercy was talking about all of these major repairs sort of happening at the same time. Well, Mr. Hoey mentioned earlier in the early 90s, we built 13 beautiful new schools across the city. Thank God we did. Thank God we have them. But they're all turning 30 years old at the same time, and all that equipment is turning 30 years old at the same time. And so that's why we have this sort of really issue of so many repairs coming due simultaneously. I also want to mention that we have Mr. Underwood here tonight, and he prepared this nice memo of some of the key elements that he's working on now. I wonder if it made sense to ask him to come up and just give a quick summary
Sure.
of that.
Good evening, everybody. The piece of paper we put in front of you here has nothing to do with the work orders. There's hundreds of work orders outstanding. What we put together here is our biggest concerns: the roof leaks, the boilers, the ventilation in the classrooms, the bathrooms, et cetera, et cetera. And we're on the same page. We're not here to point fingers or to place blame. We just want to know where we can get from here to where we want to be. And we also want to define what we can do and what we want to do. My staff is willing to think outside the box. We're willing to do more. We can do the things that we don't necessarily need permits for. You know, we're not looking to do plumbing, we're not looking to do electrical work, but we can do ceiling tiles, we can do some minor repairs. But, you know, with the collective bargaining, the people that are doing the collective bargaining are the ones that are supposed to do the work. So even when we want to, we're not allowed to. And, you know, water leaks, no matter how small they are, they create problems further down the line. And we focus mostly on, in DPW, and they're busy. There's no doubt about it. Jimmy's guys, they work continuously. They're against a lot of stuff. But, so what I was saying is that list we put together is really our main concerns: the heating, the ventilations, the water leaks. And, you know, we've done a lot of volunteer work this year. We've had groups come in from outside the city and do some work at the Butler School, at the Washington School's getting ready to do a big volunteer group. Bartlett School just had a group come in. Those are the type of things that are thinking outside the box. Those are the things that that go a long ways. But, you know, it's something we have to sit down with the unions, because, I mean, there's been times, and I've been in this business for 25 years in the schools, where you'll do a ceiling tile, or you'll do something because it's there. It's in the front of the hall, it's in the front of the lobby, you'll do something. Some people complain, some people don't. Some people say, oh, that's great, and then there's other components in the city, within the city, and unions and whatnot, that go, hey, that's not your job. You wouldn't like it if we mopped your floor. Well, really, I don't care, they can come mop our floor. We have to work together. We need to start looking outside the box. You know, the same thing with the grass and the grounds. I know that's a big concern of everybody. It's money, it's time, it's people. You've got one custodian in many of the schools most of the day, and you have a swing shift kid comes in at 10 o'clock. He's really there to help out with the cafeteria. So it's, and again, we're not, you know, making excuses for what's not being done, but it's complicated. It takes time, and that's why we have to start to get together, meet once a month, whatever, instead of these, you know, last time there was a subcommittee, joint subcommittee, I think it was, I don't know, it was quite some time ago. We need to get together on a more frequent basis to discuss these things and start to think outside the box and how we can move forward. So that list was put together just out of the concerns of the senior custodians. We sent out an email, we said, hey, what do you know, we don't want all your work orders. We want what's important to you. And they came back, as that list says, pretty much, you know, right around the board. We want our heating to work. We want our air conditioning to work. We want the roof to stop leaking. It just gets more complicated when those things are not fixed. So.
Thank you.
I just ask, Mr. Underwood, while you're there, is there these major issues that you laid out for us, is there any kind of a plan to address them, or are we just stuck?
That would really be an answer for Jim to answer. The plan is to just keep at them. We put in the work orders, but, you know, the other thing we don't want to do is we don't want to complicate the system by re-entering work orders. And then you look and you see a false number, you say, oh, there's 1,200 work orders there. Even the 1,300 work orders that are out there right now, if you look at them one by one, some of them are duplicated, some of them are old, some of them have been completed and have been closed out, because what ends up happening is it's people get busy in their lives. You'll have a group of DPW workers that will go back to the shop with their slips that say, hey, these are done. They go over there. If that person isn't there right away to say, okay, complete, and send them over to the custodians.
So, Mr. Underwood, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we have to get to our meeting, and I just wanted to follow up.
Okay, sure.
Like, for instance, one of the issues is one boiler not working, 13 rooms without heat exhaust venting issues throughout the school.
Yeah.
To say, you know, we just keep at them, I don't know what that means. Do we have a plan to address that?
Honestly, Mr. Gendron, I don't really know. It's the same thing. I don't know what you want to hear from us. You know, we put in the work orders, and we hope that they come and they fix them.
So it's on this, you put the work order into the DPW, and we're waiting for them to respond. Is that
Correct.
Is that where it's at?
Yes. And sometimes, like that particular one, where it says 13 rooms without, that means there's a boiler working in there. There's some type of check valve or damper or something that's stopping that heat from to get there. And then what ends up happening is the school that has no heat gets that HVAC guy instead of those 13 rooms that don't. So it's just a matter of catch-up. And that's really it's something that Jimmy could probably answer better than I could.
Okay,
on
thank you.
what we do.
Thank you.
We just try to stay diligent with keeping up on the work orders and putting them in there.
Thank you.
Sure. Can we just hear from the manager for a minute?
No, I agree that we should work as a partnership, and we have been working as a partnership, and I think it's very unfair to, if anybody believes that Mr. Green and his crew are not doing the best job they could possibly do, I think it's just horrendous for that viewpoint to be part of any discussions. Mr. Green and his crew do a spectacular job with the limitations that they have. When it comes to heat, yes, we did have some questions about heat, but all of those heating issues were addressed. And we address these issues as best we can. So I just want everybody to know that we will continue to work as a partnership. But from the city side of government, I have complete confidence in Mr. Green and the members of his staff at DPW that they're doing the best job possible to maintain the buildings. Because we know we are the landlord of those buildings, and it's our responsibility. And we'll continue to make sure we do it right. But believe me, they have been doing it right for all the time that I've been here, and I support them 100%.
Thank you. Mr. Samaras, and then...
No, I just want to add, I think what's been discussed here is a need for more communication. And the city council does have a subcommittee in education, and truthfully, we've had more of an exchange between the University of Middlesex Community College than we've had with the Lowell school system. So maybe this is the time that it should begin, Mr. General, and what we can do is a lot of the issues can be discussed both, in this chamber mutually, and I think this is the direction we have to go in. So perhaps the superintendent can be prepared to give a presentation to the city council after he gives the presentation to the school committee on, okay, how we can work better together and what the needs are. And then as a school committee and a city council, we could work these issues out. Mr. Hoey's right, a lot of these problems, they're cyclical. They've been around for a long time, and you do certain things and you remediate certain things. But maybe there's a time now to change the paradigm and have a paradigm shift where we really develop a model that can work. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Mr. Gignac?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to mention that, on a positive note, we received this report from the city regarding work orders that were a result of the building commissioner's inspections, and that is, there are only 3% of the items incomplete. So that's a step in the right direction. Another point I want to make is I had this very same meeting 4 years ago. And the item that was just brought up is that some of the work orders are outstanding and they're duplicates. And at that time, we suggested that the schools in the city meet on a regular basis to cross-check that list to make sure it's 100% accurate. And what I think would be helpful for both bodies is to receive a report with more information than what we received tonight, with high-priority items, when the ticket was submitted, and the status. Because if one boiler was working yesterday and today it's not working, well, that's only one day. But if it's been reported a year and a half ago, then that's a big concern. I will add that last week I received 5 or 6 phone calls from parents and teachers that there was no heat at their schools, and the next day I received phone calls from the same people that the heat was working. So things are being addressed. It's just, I think both just should meet more often and work collectively. And in the future, it would be great to have one single report from both parties working together, so we get all the information and everybody's on the same page. Because you're the landlord, we're the tenants, and we just have to be respectful on both sides, and we're all in it for the right reasons, and we're all on the same team. So thank you.
So I agree with that. I mean, quickly, just to wrap up, because I know we're running late. I mean, we have a lot of new players, so let's all try to see what we can do. As Mr. Underwood said, we need to just talk and make sure that, if someone comes in and it's not your job to shut the water valve off so someone can inspect the HVC, well, let's not make a big deal out of it, someone shut it off. And, as you were saying, the volunteer groups that come in now, that's great if we can do that with people who are have an expertise in certain fields and they want to come in and volunteer. We have the vocational school, let's see if we can utilize the students to come in and do certain things. So I think that's the direction we want to go in, you know? We know that our staff's doing what we can, we know that the school staff's doing what they can do, but, you know, we just want our schools to be in a little bit better shape, so if we can get there by cooperating and having some volunteer groups, having some people come in and do things, you know, let's start that discussion again. So, anything else? Okay. Mr. Chair, we're all set? Okay, so make a motion for a report of progress? Yeah, second? Okay. And motion to adjourn? So moved. Thank you.